This is being recorded and it'll be shared out later. If you do navigate to device42.com getting started, or if you search for Device42 getting started, you'll be able to see some getting started videos as well as the previously recorded webinars. Once this one is all updated and uploaded and everything, you'll be able to see that one there. It takes us a few days to get that out there. So we do have, there's a team of 6 of us now on the customer success engineering side. We did have a new member that started this week. He's one of our panelists. So now we have 5 panelists that are available to answer questions. And so feel free to shoot off your questions there if there's something that I have missed or didn't cover or you're curious on. So, and I think we'll get going where this is recorded. We got about just got about 30 people who've joined, which is great. That's a great turnout. So I will start off with my slide presentation, which is very brief. It's only one, it's really just one slide, and then we'll get right into the demo. So thanks everybody for joining. Brief intro, myself, Stan Tazinski, Customer Success Engineer for Device42. Been here about 1.5 years now, and we have started these webinar series. We started these last fall to help people that are new to the product, new to the platform, and just to go over some best practices and some of the features functionality within the product. Today, we're going to talk about software usage and tracking. And that feature is what we call, it's our SLM module, software license module. It allows you to, from discovery, as you're discovering the software, you can then assign license modules to those software components that you discover for tracking. And you can then learn if you're over usage, under usage, how many licenses are allocated, maybe per person or per business unit. So it's different ways that you can track those things. All right. So what we're going to go over today is we're going to talk about how you discover software components, the different license models that are available, tracking licenses where you can track them by user, by CAL, which is client access license, by device, and also by device CPU and alerts. Sorry, there's a typo there, so I apologize for that. Had a little copy and paste error there. Apologize. But and then when we're done with all of that, then we'll do our questions. All right. So here's my demo environment. And one of the things we're going to talk about, I do have some notes for myself that I chose to track here. I apologize for, I thought I had those queued up, so I apologize for not having those open. So some of the things we're going to talk about here today, like I said, we're going to talk about the licensing and the modules and things like that. So software components that are discovered are software executables. You find software by going under resources. And if you're licensed for the software license module, it's under software components. So when you look at all software components, this is going to show me everything that's been discovered, right? When you view the components in the list, you can also make bulk modifications on these software components, right? So if I was looking for something, say I look for Internet Explorer, and I find all my Internet Explorer, sorry, I press enter there by mistake. I really wanted to press enter here so I could find everything that begins with Internet Explorer. I can choose all of these and I can do different bulk modifications on here, right? So I can assign these to a suite. I can refresh the update accounts, change it to managed or unmanaged. I can also delete these components as well if I need to. You can see, I can see the discovered count, how many systems have Internet Explorer, right? There was another section I wanted to show, which is in the software and use side here. Oh, I'm not, shoot, I apologize. There was a section here that I wanted to show, which shows the, if you, it's in the license models. So in the different license models, you can choose whether or not they're prohibited or ignored, things like that. Let me get to that. I apologize. My notes here are a little, got a little skewed. let me see. I have some links here that I saved off to show these. So if I was looking for Internet Explorer, right, I can see the license model is individual, perpetual, right? Microsoft is the vendor. If I'm tracking this by keys, there's different aliases here for Internet Explorer as well, right? But it also shows me all of the devices. If you recall, the discovered count was 119. So I should have 119 systems here that have all these different versions of Internet Explorer. I could isolate it to a specific version if I wanted to. That leads into if you want to prohibit that software. That way there, if it's detected, you'd have an alert set up where it would indicate if that device had that installed, you'd be alerted that it was installed. So in, we have some examples where a customer only allows a certain version of Internet Explorer or Chrome or something like that. You would want to be alerted for that. I wanted to find I didn't have the link queued up, but there was this is where I was looking down here, sorry. So you can, if you mark these as prohibited or ignored, prohibited works in conjunction with the alerts, excuse me. You can also, if you ignore them, sorry, I'm just trying to read my notes. I don't have my old man glasses on, I apologize. If there's a software component that you wish to ignore, you can mark them, and then any future discoveries will ignore that software if it's on a system. So if you don't care to know that 7-zip is installed on particular systems, right? I could choose these 7-zip, so like 7-zip beta, maybe I don't care about that, or the 7-zip suite. I could choose those components and then I could mark them as ignored. And that way there, they won't show up in the list again, okay? You can also add components to a suite. So in the example of Microsoft Office, right? So if you find you've discovered Microsoft Word or Excel, PowerPoint, those obviously are the individual components, but you could create a software suite and add those to a suite. You can do that right from here. So you can add those components into that suite. And if I choose that, and I choose the hammer, it's going to ask me what suite do I want to put it in, right? Now, if I don't have one defined, I could then define one here. So I could call it my 7-zip suite or my Microsoft Office suite. And then I could click the assign button on the right-hand side, and it'll then include those as part of that suite, okay? Some of the softwares that I was looking at before, just to show you some examples of the different components. Let me go back to here, software components. So for example, the lib, there's one here that I know there's a lot of versions of, the libsql. So I can see I have a license count of 350, but I've discovered over 500 of those, right? So that if I had an alert set up for that, for when I go over my licensing, then I would get a notification on that. I can show you where those are set up later on. One of the things I wanted to move on to was the licensing option. So if I go down to software license models, there's different options for these models. So if I choose to add a new software license model, this will show me all the different options that I have. So I can, whether I want to track it by user, device, client access, which would be your CAL, or you can track it by device, CPU, or core. And as you choose each one of these track by options, you get different options down here, right? So whether it's perpetual or subscription, perpetual would be like a permanent license, where a subscription could be related to like a SaaS software model, right? Or also Microsoft Office Online is a subscription model. There's other software licenses that are subscription, and you can tie these with purchase order records as well. How do I want to count the users, right? Whether it's a volume, if you have like a site license or a volume discount volume license for Microsoft Office, maybe it covers everybody, right? Or perhaps it's unlimited. And then whether the license is node locked. So if it's locked per system, like the licensing for device 42, that's node locked, right? You can only use that license on a particular system, not any system that you want. If it's locked by user, free, concurrent licenses, and then count the major versions separately. So if you recall in this Internet Explorer versions, if you've ever noticed, there's always a major minor version, which is like 10.0 or 11.0. The that you can count those separately, and it won't look at the build number that comes after it. So like our latest release of the Device 42 platform is 18.06, right? So we would count it's 18.0.6, and there's some build numbers after that. We would just count the 18.0, not the .6 or anything that's after that second octet, if that makes sense. So let's see, there's a question here. Does Device 42 account for specialized licensing like IBM's PVUs and RVUs by Michael Sly? Michael, I am not familiar with that. I'd have to look into that unless any of the other panelists know on that is, or perhaps they could check real quick. I'm not sure how that licensing is. So I'm gonna leave that question up there. I'm not gonna mark that off that anybody that I responded to that or not. So let me see. Yeah, concurrent. I don't know if anybody has any questions on these or if they know what all of these different, models are here, right? So you can see volume, it's by device, volume, single, unlimited, OEM license, where you get your OEM for your operating system license, perhaps. Because this licensing model is not only for software components that you discover, but it's also for the operating systems. And with your core licensing, we do allow operating system discovery, but we don't do license models for it. So you get the license models, you're able to assign an operating system license model with the software license module. But again, out of your core licensing, you do get all operating systems on there. Let me see. I'm just looking at my other notes here, make sure I cover everything. So on alerts, you can set up alerts for specific components, including the operating systems, when that particular version is discovered. And let me go over to that real quick. So I go to set up alerts. And if I choose to add an alert, I can choose software. And then I have these different options here, right? So whether it's the count or a percentage, or if it's prohibited software. So if you recall, we talked about that. If there's a particular version of a prohibited software, right? So this works by, here's the alert for prohibited software. And then you need to identify that software component and mark it as prohibited. So any software that's marked as prohibited by the name and the version will then match up with this alert, and you'll get notified by this, right? Hopefully that makes sense. And this would be for anything. You can, any software and operating system you could assign as a prohibited software. Let me see. What else can I talk? We can talk about end of life, end of service. Right. So you can see we have some that are already defined here. We, out of the box, we can't discover when end of life, end of service is by the vendor, where I believe we're working on that with our Enrich AI functionality that we've added to the platform. But if you know what those dates are, you can see here, you can add a software. You can see there's some operating systems in here, and then you can put in those specific dates, end of life, end of service. If I wanted to create a new one, I could simply go over here. I can find the software by searching for it. So I can choose Internet Explorer. I can put in the version I want, 11.0.1235. I can pick my end of life dates, end of service date, maybe is 10 years from now. And then I can save that, right? I can delete this record later, but once you have that set up and we find that version, we'll be able to track that, right? We could get warnings on that, end of life, end of service. There's also reports and there's dashboards. There's already predefined dashboards within Insights Plus that would show this information when this software is reaching end of life or end of service, or if it's already expired out of end of life or end of service. And I think, let me see. You can also add software. You can add your own software component. So if there's a software that you have seen that's installed, or one that you want to track on your own, if it's a custom application, you can identify that yourself. So I could call it, my software app. I have a customer that they have over 140 internal applications that they've developed, and they may want to track them themselves on how they're installed in their system. So here's my software. Whether it's managed or unmanaged, I'll say that it's managed. What's the license model? Whichever one I want to call, I'll call it, free because it's mine. Myself as the vendor, particular category. I can add a new category if I want, whatever the software is. And then, if I wanted to track it by keys, I could do that if I wanted to assign specific keys on that. Right. So that's something that I can do. There's also, let me see, and then I was looking to see where you add the suite, but I don't see that here, so I apologize. But I think those are it. Let me look at the questions here for what we have. Let's see. So John is typing. I'm going to let John finish his answer. Hunter has a question. I'm not sure if everybody can see the Q&A questions there. Have somebody asking about IPAM. So Mas, we're talking about software. We do hope to have a webinar on IPAM in the future. So I would watch for that webinar to come. So you should be able to do that. Ryan, I'm going to answer your question. Ryan Oliver, can SLM detect installed Windows KBs, AV definitions, et cetera? If it's installed, yes. You can see here some of the Microsoft KBs right here. So we actually reference that to our customers that, you can track these items. So if you were looking for a particular patch, if a customer had a particular KB that was installed, here's one here. Here's a KB that was installed. There's 2 devices that have it installed down here. These 2 desktops have it, right? And I could search for that if that was something that I was tracking, right? As far as AV definitions, if I'd have to check like the way Norton does their versioning, and if Norton does their versioning in such a way that when they add AV definitions that it updates the version, or McAfee, for example, I'm not sure if they do that, but if they do, then you could track it that way. If it does anything to, like I said, the version numbers, that would be one way to track that. When you search in here, and also just, you don't have to be in the software component view to search. So here's some general knowledge. If I was to look for Internet Explorer and I just press enter here, it's going to show me anything that's related to Internet Explorer. So I can see there's the software component. Here's some of the aliases. So if I looked at this Internet Explorer 5.0, it didn't find it. So it must be an old record that I couldn't find it. I apologize. And this is our demo system too. So things are subject to change with little or no notice. Hunter, alias is misspelled. All right. I didn't notice that. I'll go back. I'll check that after the demo. But here's some of the aliases here for this Internet Explorer. And again, here's all the devices that are on. Another direction that you can look at this, if you're looking at a particular device. So I'll go to the device record, and if down here in the device record, there's a software link, and I could look at all the software that's installed on this device here, and I can see all the KBs, for example. I can just keep scrolling through this list. So I can see the different things that are done. All right. Where this is related to operating systems, we can We can talk about operating systems a little bit. You can see all your different operating systems, you know, how they're counted, how many have been discovered, right? We can look at those if you're looking for, you know, Red Hat. You know, here's some Red Hat Enterprise Server. We've got some discovered ones over here. You can see the license model as a cal per seat. It's not being tracked though by the keys. And the same end of life, end of service on operating systems is also true as it is on components. So you can see there's several entries in here on the operating systems. Yep. And these have probably been added over time, again, where it's our demo system. So. Let's see, here's a question from Adrian. Will it detect non-Microsoft technical operating system items, KBs, etc., if someone was running someone like a new drilling tool? Yeah, exactly. If you look under here, under the software components, you can see the KBs that are here. So we, on Windows systems, we look at the Windows installer database to see if to see what's installed. And on Linux, for example, we look at like yum. We'll do like a yum list and get the software that's been installed via yum. So that's how we detect it there. And then Adrian has another question. A lot of software is websites. How does it identify that? A lot of software is websites. Do you mean like SaaS? Looks like Tim is answering. So Tim's going to answer that question. Adrian, yes. So we're unable to detect SaaS, if that's what you're asking. I've worked with some people that want to track SaaS licenses, and in that case, we've created a license model, and then we've assigned it to the end users. So if you have your end users that are defined in here under infrastructure end users, you can then take licenses. You could create a license model for a SaaS component. And SaaS software like I can't, you know, Salesforce, for example, right? And you could then assign a license to a user in that context. It's a manual process, but it can be done. You could also do it via the import-export utility, where you could assign those licenses to the users. Adrian, what does KB knowledge base stand for? It's what Microsoft, they denote all their patches as a KB because it's usually there's an article or a bug that's, you know, logged or something like that, and then the issue is then associated with that KB article. So, but it's a Microsoft terminology. Can I open a KB so I can see the detail? I can click on this one. I'm not sure how much detail it will give me. It just really gives me the name and if it was installed on a system. So there's really no level of detail. Adrian was asking that question. And then, yep, it's on Microsoft. Those are live. Yep. No, good questions from everybody. And real brief, 1806 now has the ability to create your own Insights Plus dashboards. So I'll do a feature plug here while we have a few minutes left. And if I was looking for a dashboard for software, I can click software and I can look at, you know, software usage dashboard, devices with an operating system but no software, devices with prohibited software. I can choose to view this dashboard. So I have 6. There's other dashboards that would show the actual data that is on there. Depends on the report that you choose. Let's see. Let me see. A few more questions here. Hunter, can we get a demo of that? Hunter, a demo of which exactly? And then Adrian, do you have example of detected software? I'd like to see what details it captures about the software. It's pretty much just the versions, Adrian. So if I go to, you know, I could go to software and use, for example, right? And I could click on any one of these. It's just going to give me, you know, version information. That was a bad example. There wasn't that information in there, but It's going to give me version information, what device it's on, if there's an alias, the version, here's the device, when we first detected it, when it was last updated. Custom fields, these were added to the record, but this is the information here. Some of these if some Linux, we may get some install paths from different software packages. Those may be detected, which is helpful for when you're looking for like your log4j information. So if I pick up some log4j instance here, right, I can see the device. This doesn't have the path, but gives me the alias there of where it was found. And let's see, Mike, with tags, I could define enterprise app X and tag front-end server backend database license all associated with that app. Yes, yep, you can. That's a good question. Yeah, that's a great example of how to use tags, where you can tag the software, tag the servers, whether it's front end, back end, and it would relate all of those items together. That closely relates itself to application dependency mapping too. And Hunter, the dashboards I just showed a demo of one. Yeah, I can show one real quick. We have a couple minutes left. And then Norman, can you show some custom reporting on installed software, canned reports, and any customization options, please? Yeah, there's actually some decent reports and classic reports. I don't know if anyone has done that. I won't do too much, but you can do software and use or software. And one of the tips and tricks with classic reports is less is more. The less options you choose, the more data that you'll get. So if I go down the bottom here and I look at, here's the, I want name, software type, license model, and then I do name, software type, license model, say I do description, and let me just give this a quick report. A quick name here. And if I display this on the screen, you can see it's thinking. Too much data. So there's too much in there because of what I chose. But I would try this on your own instance. And like I said, your best bet, go down the bottom and just look at these two sections down here for your sort, your component columns and your sort order. And don't bother with changing any of this stuff up here, because these are like filters. And the more options you choose up here, the more granulated your data will be. So that's probably the best advice I can give you. On the Insights Plus building, it's a bit comprehensive to get into building a report during the short amount of time that we have. But I can show you some quick reports here. So here's our Risk Center dashboard, which is a pretty cool dashboard. I can hide this sidebar. I can hide my filtering. But this will show me, different things. I've got devices with ports, expired certs. Also, what's our carbon emissions, based on hardware calculations that we do some math in the background. Let's see. Adrian, can we create a software record from it? It becomes a software record. I missed the first part of that question, Adrian. You may have to ask that again. I think if you're asking, can you create a software component? Yes, you can. And then Norman, how would ADM fit? So ADM, related to Mike's question, ADM would fit in because tags would create a dependency. You're not a dependency, but it creates a filter association with those devices. ADM creates a service dependency amongst the devices, so they're closely related. That's what I mean by their relation. Let's see, Norman, you must be working with John, so that's good. Paul, can you show how to merge two or more software components and explain the difference between a merge and assigning to a suite? A merge, I don't have enough time to show that, but Paul, we can talk during one of our meetings because we work together. John and I can work with you on that. When you add them to a suite, a merge would combine two software components. So if you had Internet Explorer and Internet Explorer 5, you could merge those into one component. If you're joining them to a suite, that's more of a parent-child relationship where you say, I have Adobe as a parent, and then all of the, Acrobat Reader, Illustrator, the other Adobe products that are out there, those would go under Adobe as a parent, and then the children, and that would make up the suite. And then we're just about out of time, but good questions coming in from everybody. Matthew wrote, when you add custom fields, is there a way to move them to other areas on the form rather than just in the custom fields panel? No, unfortunately, that's where they go. It would be nice. I know that some customers have asked, can you customize that page and the fields that are on that page? And the best we can do is offer the custom fields there, and they go into that particular section that's on that's on the software component. And then one more question here from Daniel, and then we'll have to wrap this up. But there's a dashboard. There is a dashboard report detailing what entries are consuming licenses. Tim is typing that answer. So I'll let Tim answer that. And John's answering Adrian's question. And that's it for questions. I'll let John and Tim type their questions. Robert has a question. Merging software components will make all except the master become aliases of the master component, and adding to a software suite is just creating a collection of software components, correct? Yes. I'd have to verify that, Robert, but I would say that you're correct, right? Because when you add them to a suite, you're creating a collection of components, and then you're naming it. So I could call it my software suite, and I could add all of those components in there. That's true. Yep. Yep. And then I missed Daniel's note there, but all right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. We went a couple of minutes over, but great stuff, great interaction with everybody. I appreciate it. If we see that these webinars, are running longer, we may look at extending them out to like 45 minutes or so, but we figure we try to keep them short and to the point, and make it interactive so people can ask their questions and make it valuable, but not take up too much of your time. So, and last one from Daniel. So device consuming core or ADM? Still not sure of the full question, Daniel, but if you're talking about software, the software license module component, that works in line with your core licensing. ADM, the ADM module, the application dependency mapping, is a separate module, and that's licensed differently, where we look at the services communication. The software license module allows you to add software license models basically to your software components that are discovered. It also allows you to discover the software and applications that are installed on a system. So I hope that helps. Tim's typing an answer. All right. I'll let Tim type his answer, and then we will close out. And I think we're good. Well, thank you again, everybody, for coming. Look forward to hopefully all of you joining next month's webinar. And hopefully you can get to 1806 and start looking at these Insights Plus dashboards and building them on your own, and looking around at all your different tiles and charts and things like that. So everybody have a great day. Thank you again for coming from all of us here at Device42, the customer success team.